Hello, friends. Merry Christmas and welcome to another special episode of Hymn of the Week, a Christmas episode. We're in the middle of a Christmas series as we come near to Christmas Day during the time of recording, winding down the season of Advent, or should we say winding up, as Advent is nearly over and Christmas Day is nearly upon us. And so we're looking forward to that great celebration and we anticipate it. So as you view this Hymn of the Week this week, it will be over the period of Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and so we wish you a wonderful Christmas and a joyful season of celebrating the coming of Christ. We're looking at a passage today that is one where Christ has already been born, the story of Simeon, and I'm going to read it to you from Luke chapter 2, starting in verse 25. Now there was a man in Jerusalem called Simeon, who was righteous and devout. He was waiting for the consolation of Israel, and the Holy Spirit was on him. It had been revealed to him by the Holy Spirit that he would not die before he had seen the Lord's Messiah. Moved by the Spirit, he went into the temple courts. When the parents brought in the child Jesus to do for him what the custom of the law required, Simeon took him in his arms and praised God, saying, Sovereign Lord, as you have promised, you may now dismiss your servant in peace. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you prepared in the sight of all nations, a light for revelation to the Gentiles, and glory of your people Israel. The child's father and mother marveled at what was said about him. Then Simeon blessed them and said to Mary his mother, This child is destined to cause the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be spoken against, so that the thoughts of many hearts will be revealed, and a sword will pierce your own soul too. Now we'll ask Pastor Harry to share with us the story of this week's Hymn of the Week.
Our Hymn of the Week is Joy to the World by Isaac Watts, adapted from the music of George Frederick Handel. Our theme for the Christmas season has been war and peace. And whatever the circumstances in history, there have always been people like Simeon, people who were righteous and devout. And God used them in those circumstances to produce works of music, to spread the gospel, and to represent Christ in this world. England had come through a period of political and religious upheaval. Oliver Cromwell had risen to power. He deposed King Charles I, signed his death warrant. He dissolved Parliament and ruled as Lord Protector of England until his death in 1658. The Royalists regained control of Parliament, and the monarchy was restored in 1660. Religiously, Cromwell had favored the dissidents over the clergy of the state church. But the tide turned, and Parliament passed the Act of Uniformity in 1662, requiring Anglican ordination for all clergy. Those who refused withdrew from the state church and were referred to as nonconformists. Many continued to preach, but at the risk of imprisonment. Among those was the well-known author of Pilgrim's Progress, John Bunyan, and another was Isaac Watts Sr. He was in prison when his son, also called Isaac, was born. The younger Isaac was what we would call a child prodigy. At age 5, he studied Latin. At age 9, Greek. At age 11, French. And at age 13, Hebrew. Because he was from a nonconformist family, he was unable to study at major universities such as Oxford and Cambridge, for they required consent to the 39 Articles of the Church of England. So he studied in various independent schools and was naturally inquisitive. He became a pastor of a nonconformist church in 1602. But after 10 years, he resigned for emotional health reasons. In time, he became a recognized scholar, a theologian, and a philosopher. He wrote a textbook on logic, which became the standard textbook for universities across England and America. He also became a hymn writer. He wrote more than 700 hymns in his lifetime and has come to be recognized as the father of English hymnody. As a hymn writer, he was considered a radical by his peers. He wrote, "The part of worship which of all others is the nearest akin to heaven should not be performed the worst on earth." At age 18, when he complained to his father about the singing in his church, his father challenged him, "Well then, young man, give us other hymns to sing," which he did. At age 18, he produced his first hymn, which was enthusiastically received in many of the nonconformist churches. Much of the hymnody of the time consisted of singing from the Psalter. He undertook a project to produce new paraphrases of the Psalms, for all except 12, which he considered unsuitable. He gave freshness to the Psalms by infusing New Testament content into the lyrics, in a way he supposed David would have written had he been there in those times. The carol "Joy to the World" was his paraphrase of parts of Psalm 98. "Make a joyful noise unto the Lord, all the earth. Make a loud noise and rejoice and sing praise. Sing unto the Lord with the harp and the voice of the psalms. Let the floods clap their hands. Let the hills be joyful together." Reminiscent of the words of "Joy to the World," and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing, and heaven and nature sing. The music to the hymn is usually attributed to George Frederick Handel, but it was not written by him for this song. Rather, segments of his music were borrowed and adapted. The music as we know it today was arranged by an American, Lowell, to the tune of the song he composed called "Antioch." The lyrics and the music clearly illustrate the manner in which Isaac Watts intended the good news of his birth to be proclaimed. Hear the music as played by Calvin and Heather Dyck, and follow the words on your screen to the carol "Joy to the World" by Isaac Watts, our hymn of the week.